I wanted to take just a second to make something clear. I do not support anything past legitimate protest. And I don't care if it happens with Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Trump supporters, anyone, unless there's a national emergency, which in a sense I think you could sort of say there is, but I don't think in such a way that it would actually warrant anything other than legitimate peaceful protest at this moment in time. And I don't care if it's in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else in the United States, I don't support it. I don't believe what happened in terms of violence and rioting in D.C. and in other places in the very recent past were correct or proper or will have any kind of good effect, to be quite frank with you. Those having been involved should count on law enforcement and the courts and others taking them to task for what they have done. This is what you need to count on. Even if you count yourself a patriot, right, and you look at what happened to those who were patriots, you will find that many of them, literally their lives were destroyed as a result of what they did. They did what they did because it was in conscience for them. I understand that. You need to recognize, however, that the results were not good for them. I'm fine with protests, as I've said. Whether or not I agree with the perspectives of the people who are mounting those protests is beside the point. I'm fine with protests. I believe I've been consistent in saying protests are the very fabric out of, or a piece of, I should say, not the fabric itself, but a significant piece of the fabric out of which the United States itself is made. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation of Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Friday the 9th of January of 2021, and I wanted to say happy birthday to my sister-in-law, Naomi. Happy birthday. Hope you're having a good day today. Subject of today's video is going to be America and democracy, and I wanted to welcome everybody who's coming on Rumble on the podcast and on YouTube. Thank you for coming along, and hopefully I'll present something that you will find reasonable and worthwhile today. I wanted to take a moment to begin with, if I can figure out how to do it here, because naturally it's hiding itself from me. I wanted to take just a moment to quote something that was said by one of America's founders, and naturally I can't find, there it is. Naturally I couldn't find it there. This is a quote supposedly attributed to John Adams. I cannot tell you whether or not it actually is something that he said. I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen so you can read it in case I hash it when I try to quote it. I'm going to do my best to do exactly that. He is quoted as having said, "I do not say that democracy has been more pernicious on the whole and in the long run than monarchy or aristocracy. Democracy has never been and never can be so durable as aristocracy and monarchy. But while it lasts, it is more bloody than either. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. It is vain to say that democracy is less vain, less proud, less selfish, less ambitious, or less avaricious than aristocracy or monarchy. It is not true, in fact, and nowhere appears in history. The passions are the same in all men, under all forms of simple government, and when unchecked produce the same effects of fraud, violence, and cruelty. When clear prospects are opened before vanity, pride, avarice, or ambition, for their easy gratification, it is hard for the most considerate philosophers and the most conscientious moralists to resist the temptation individuals have conquered themselves. To resist the temptation, individuals have conquered themselves, nations and large bodies of men never." And that was, again, supposedly attributed to John Adams. And I wanted to take just a minute to read that to you because I think it's important to kind of get the context of the waste murders itself thing that a lot of people have put out there, right? And so that's what that was all about. So I wanted to talk about a piece by a foreign entity, which happens to be British, and we'll leave it at that. where it talks about the idea, first of all, of what happened in the United States and what a horrible thing that was, and second of all, about the idea that America was a democracy and that it's considered a leader in the world for democracy. And I wanted to take this moment to tell you something that I've said, I'm sure, to many people, and many people have heard in past, and it is America is not, I underline that, is not a democracy. It never was a democracy, at least not in the forms that actually were underlined in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. It never was. It never was a democracy. In fact, there was actually talk initially of it being a monarchy. There were many people who thought that that was a good idea. George Washington is purported to have said, not interested in that. As president, I'm going to be president and I'm going to step down when I'm done, and that's that. So that's the first thing that I wanted to get across. The second thing is, where I don't agree with the violence and the rioting and anything else that may have happened that was untoward in DC or anywhere else where these Trump supporter folks were concerned, and it appears to me that there were really Trump supporters doing some of this stuff, and I'm going to be the first to say that. Where that's true, I do support the protesters just as much as I support BLM, Antifa, and others having the right to protest, even if I consider what they say repugnant. And this is something that I've said in past. Your free speech, which I'm not sure is guaranteed in the way people think it is in the Constitution, but nonetheless, I think it's something that we should allow for, should not be contingent on my liking what you say. Okay? And that, like I say, you wanna stump for socialism or communism, you want to say we should be a dictator or a dictatorship or a monarchy, whatever you happen to think, I don't believe that you should be stopped in saying that. In fact, I think it's helpful when people say things that I disagree with because it shows what they're saying, what they believe, and so forth. And so that's a good thing. So to the BBC folks, I'm sorry, I did actually out them a little bit here. Excuse me. I want you to understand two things. One, America is not a democracy. It's a representative republic. Okay? It is a representative republic. That's what we are. That's what we've always been. And by the way, I think anybody who calls themselves a democracy, with a few notable exceptions that really have pretty much killed themselves over the course of time or are in the process of doing so at present, I don't think anybody is. The country of Britain, by this point, I would have to say that they are technically a representative republic with a monarch at their supposed head who doesn't really exercise much power most of the time. She's just a lady with a lot of money and a little bit of power comparative to what the Parliament and the Prime Minister and so forth of Britain have as their authority. Okay? And next I want to go on to talk a little bit more about that piece, and I wanted to talk about the idea of what foreign leaders have had to say about that situation. I have a little bit of disappointment in people like the PM of Britain, though I'm not surprised by what he did. I'm not at all surprised by what most of the European leaders had to say. And how could anybody have been surprised to hear Iran spouting nonsense about the United States government with the fact that they are basically a dictatorship in everything they say and do? How could anybody be surprised by that? So you going and trying to get all of these different people to say, and listening to what they say, my answer to you is, I can't imagine how that would be a surprising thing to you. I'm going to say this again because I think it needs said. I'm not saying that there's never a time for rebellion, and I'm not saying that there's never a time for people to act violently, but I am saying what I believe did happen is a bad thing, and I believe that it will put others in a position where they will at least try and make it so Mr. Trump cannot run again if he actually decides to do so in future. I think they will fail. I believe that they will fail at this point in time, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Will Mr. Trump run again? I can't answer that. Was violence the appropriate course of action in these things? I want to reiterate this because I think it needs to be known and said. No, it was not. It was not what should have happened. Okay, it's getting time for me to wrap up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Today is Friday, the 9th of January of 2021, and as I said, my sister-in-law's birthday, and I wish her the best of days. Tomorrow will be Saturday the 10th. Saturday the 10th of January of 2021. And I hope that you guys are having a good weekend so far. Well, actually, excuse me, I'm all messed up today. Today is Saturday. Tomorrow will be Sunday. I do that a lot recently, and it's my fault because I actually wrote the wrong thing down in my notes. It's my fault, so you'll have to excuse me for that. Okay, so again, thank you for coming and watching me on Rumble, watching me on YouTube if you're doing that, and listening to me on the podcast. And I'm hoping that you have a good day and a good weekend, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Saturday, the 9th of January of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.